Derek coming this morning?
He's right outside.
Great.
And Seacrest, yes?
Oh, you know the generator's running?
Which one?
One over here.
Oh, maybe it's the monthly test or that?
On Thursday?
Yeah, because
That
I
was Wednesday.
parked, we were on Parks, I heard the noise in it,
It's
so I,
supposed to be on Wednesday, not Thursday.
maybe today is Wednesday, we go home, folks. See you tomorrow.
Yeah, didn't work that well.
So you want me to? What do you want me to do?
Video.
Flip a
Give me the-
coin.
And give me the phone number.
Give Ed the phone number, he'll call her on his tin can, stringing tin can there.
I think it's coming. I hope you do.
Well, we're answering,
No,
hello,
we can't tell
I
them
don't
call
think
at
so.
the same time.
hola.
Let's see. Stuart is coming,
SOCKS.
Right? You're two,
I'm two.
Diane,
No, that's it.
Are you John?
Yeah.
Call Rhoda.
Good morning, how are you?
Am I in the gallery today?
Yeah, you're close.
Yeah, you're sitting in
Come
the
on.
middle of the table on a
Right up- right in
lazy
here.
Susan, so we can spin you around and ask you questions.
Like a pinata, huh?
Yeah,
Everybody get their sticks and their stones.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, beat you with a stick.
I
We
don't know.
don't, we don't have a quorum.
Got lots of candy in your pockets.
Hi, were you able to connect me on the desk?
No, you can't do that in photo at the same time, so you're on my phone.
We can't do it at the same time. When we did it when John Gray was there. They-
John Gregg told us he couldn't do it.
He always tells me I can't do it.
Okay, John's not there?
Yeah, I'm here.
John's here.
He's here.
Let me just speak to him a second.
Well, should we start the meeting first?
No, this comes first, of course.
Why don't we? Yeah, Barbara.
Yeah, we've given it to
John,
Derek.
remember the day that we did vote, we had the phone working with David,
Yeah, just disrupt it. Let's start the meeting.
and they're saying they can't do that now?
Well, I tried and I couldn't do it.
If you can't do it, you can't do it, that's it.
Who we missing? I don't count.
I know.
So, what do we do? Just discuss things?
Alright, first thing, I see Hayward here, it's Hayward Williams.
Tell her there's no quorum.
There is no quorum, Barb.
Oh, Hayward.
I'm just wondering,
You're on the committee?
But nothing can be done?
Hayward?
Yes.
Nothing
You're on the
can
Yeah,
committee?
there's two people
Yeah, I
here.
thought you,
Am I done?
I don't know.
All right,
Did you want it?
all
Did you want to be?
right, so that's three.
That help?
be done. How many people?
I'd say you could use
how many
another
people
engineer.
are-
Three now.
Three.
Yeah.
there's only three of us.
John Gregg is four.
I'm here.
Okay, four.
We're at four.
How many are on the committee?
How
Seven.
many are on the
I
committee?
believe, well, see, we don't have a list of the new
Right.
people yet, so the assumption
Well,
is the
we
same
have,
seven.
if we have
from last
four,
year.
then
Yeah,
we're all right.
well, we got a.
We got a
We
quorum.
have a quorum with four of the seven.
We do?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think you have anything to vote on, so.
Let's go.
Morning, everyone.
Yeah,
Good morning.
Derek.
Good morning.
Oh, you're Derek.
Well, he was when he came in.
Alright, I put Derek first on the agenda because I'm sure he's got other places to be. I've also asked two representatives from Seacrest to be here today. I don't see them yet, but if they show up, they'll just come right in.
I think we should accept the minutes first.
Yeah.
Has everybody read the minutes
Last time.
last time? I don't see anything wrong with
Got it. Any corrections?
it. I don't see anything. I make a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll second.
Okay.
Minutes accepted.
Minutes accepted. The difficulty is, sometimes I talk and I have to try to write at the
I
same
know.
time, or remember what I said and didn't write. That's all.
We have comments.
Dominic, excuse me,
Yeah,
Dominic, can't anybody else take the minutes to you?
No, it's okay, I can do it.
Okay.
I bet you she wishes she had 3 hands.
Throw her pencil over there.
Okay. Now it's up to Derek.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
what members of the committee are there? Herb, myself, and who else?
You're
You're
not
not-
member of the
she's-
committee,
you
you're
don't
an
count.
officer.
Oh, right, I forgot. Who's there, the committee members?
John Gregg,
Right.
myself, Dominic, and the new gentleman, I'm sorry,
Hayward Williams.
Haywood Williams.
Did he fill out a form, Hayward Williams?
Tell you, fill out a form, didn't you?
Yes.
You fill out. a
Yes,
form.
he did.
Yeah.
Okay, just checking.
Done,
Did you get that down?
yes.
Where is John?
Come in.
Come on in, guys.
Come in.
Hey.
How are you?
Chairs
Welcome.
are right there.
So what do you wanna do first, Derek?
Derek.
Yeah, let's do
Send
that.
Derek on his way? Okay, Derek, it's yours.
Yours, sir.
Okay, there's I looked at the capital reserve report, Ed, and my apologies for not, contacting you, but I was just wondering, what exactly are we looking for out of DKK's involvement, or with DKK's involvement here?
What we're looking for is what it would take us to prepare for replacement and maintenance of that equipment. So when we put it in the budget, someone with your experience has contributed what the life expectancy of everything there is.
Okay,
So
so,
I'm not pulling numbers out of a hat because I
okay,
don't have the background you have.
okay, so on the items where we obviously have a low, 1 year remaining useful life is.
Don't trust any of that because it was made up by a bunch that do speak at meetings
Okay,
that don't necessarily have a background in what we're doing, and some of that's absolutely ridiculous. So we wanna start fresh and say, what do you think? If you
Yeah, I would
go out
say
and look at these 2 gates, you find they have very unusual roofs on them.
mhm,
We haven't had anything come off any of those roofs for all the storms we've had. So to replace them in 1 year, you're probably gonna be good for a whole lot longer than that.
okay,
But I want you to contribute to that rather than letting.
so you want an engineer's opinion on these items?
Exactly,
Gotcha, gotcha.
at a
Okay.
price I can afford since I have nothing in the budget for you.
Yeah, well, I was looking at the roadway resurfacing number and, that would be great if you're rebuilding all of the roads, but milling and resurfacing the roadways, I don't think is, maybe for all the asphalt in the entire community, but as far as, the $15 million mark there, I think it's a little quite high as far as the,
Not if you have to grind it down so it's not 2 inches higher because we repave it again.
well, I understand that.
Because that provides a lot of problems with water retention.
Yeah, we're doing 3 miles down at the Pembroke Pines facility and that asphalt number came in at 2.2 million.
Well, when we did this in the year 1999, it cost us $1 million.
Okay,
When we did it 15 years later, it was $5 million. So we didn't do any scraping, we just put on top.
just an overlay.
Yeah.
Okay,
And we're finding spots that are much more reasonably cracking based on the fact we've been here 45 years now.
okay.
So we have to take a longer look at what really the numbers should be and at what you think we should be paying.
Alright, now on that roadway resurfacing, and then I'll move to some of the other items. The best way for me to get an accurate number is to actually get a quantity of how much asphalt's within the community. In order to do that, I gotta, do some CAD work, do a rough sketch, what we call trace of the existing plat documents or aerials, whatever we have. We have the SID file, what we call the SID file, which is a very accurate aerial of the community already. But, to get that quantity, I would have to find,
But
I
even
would
if
have to
that's, even if that's the one issue you don't report when you report the rest of them, I'm ahead of the curve.
okay,
So I expect that to take a little more time, not a problem, but the rest of it I'd like to get done as soon as possible.
Okay, yeah, with what the 1 year items, put them on the priority list.
Yeah, I'd like to produce a report for the 17 area. I have a draft, but it's wholly inaccurate when it takes into account 1 year for all these issues.
Okay,
So if I get the auditor to adjust it, then I'm in a better position to move forward with that report, even if we leave the one blank while you're looking into the roadway.
okay, alright, no problem.
Don't we have a schematic of what we actually did when we paved all the roads?
We do,
So-
and there's some kind of a report by a vendor, I think it's one of these.
We had a report done a couple of years ago, it was commissioned by the previous treasurer. Areas that, he basically prioritized areas, red, green, yellow, things that, areas that would need immediate attention, areas that would need attention in the future, and areas that look good,
Yeah,
green.
so I mean, we have an overall number
Right.
and then we have,
And we should provide him with that, so he has
Right,
something
so
to
he
work
has
on.
something
Does,
to
does
It
your,
may
does
help
your
him.
overall number include all of the parking spaces in the
Yes.
individual association?
should,
Everything we pay.
Everything we pay?
everything we paved should be
Alright,
there.
With the committee's permission, I can get that report to Derek, and he could use that as a base.
And that may very
That'd be
well
great.
cut down the time to spend, because you'll see someone else has done it.
Yeah, and then also identify, what areas you're responsible for and what areas you're not responsible for.
We're responsible for the whole building.
Everybody.
The whole village.
All the parking spaces of the units that belong to buildings,
Uh-huh,
we do it all at one fell swoop.
even the roadways?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're in charge of all asphalt
Yeah.
within,
Right.
except for the clubhouse, I'm assuming,
Yes,
right, so all areas except the clubhouse. Alright,
so we can get you that report, which should make that part of it a little easier too.
When you say the clubhouse, are we also responsible for Hastings complex?
No, they
No,
do,
alright,
they
so
do,
Hastings as well.
they do the paving, if there is any at Hastings, which is mainly the turnaround lane and
Yeah,
the
that's
parking
it.
space.
Yeah.
It's minimal compared to everything else, cause all the outside parking spaces are ours.
okay.
Made it a little easier for you?
Yeah, tuned in the focus there, so that's good. Cause I didn't wanna go off on a different direction without,
That's why we talk about it.
very good. Okay, perfect, well, that's,
And you do have some issues with regard to what's in there from the insurance providing coverage for the property as well. So that's our insurance company telling us the insurance we have to pay based on value.
alright,
So that's helping you come up with what the value may be without having to sit down and measure the footage and multiply it by the cost per foot to build.
okay, so the second page is all the items that are insured?
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay,
Alright,
before we get to our principal piece of business with you today, Derek, I just want to introduce Mr. Valentine. Mr. Valentine lives in Cambridge Eye, facing the North Canal. Now, I know this is in the purview of the Operations Committee, but Mr. Valentine will be gone by the next time you can give a report. So I invited him to come here today, maybe you could just give him a quick rundown of what's planned for North Canal in the future.
okay, and
That's right here.
Right here.
Okay, how you doing? Good. Basically what's, what the focus of the project is to maintain the canals, clear out all the exotics, vegetation, things that are more or less destroying the canal bank. And then restore that canal bank to the pre-permitted condition that it was originally approved on. And part of that assessment is also addressing the outfall for the reclaimed water, because when it really dumps, it has a washout condition. So that's another aspect of it. And then also to create some wet areas back there so you don't get the stench, what I call low tide smell. Whether it's freshwater or saltwater, low tide or
Always low.
But I'm,
mucky areas.
but I'm not sure he wants to give that up. He likes the smell.
So then,
Now, you're contemplating taking clear cutting the backside of the canal?
we're gonna have to, in order to restore the canal bank to its originally permitted condition.
That is a good buffer for the Florida Turnpike for us.
Right.
That's a big problem.
So you're on the west side of the North Canal,
Yes,
Don?
yes, he's in the northwest corner.
okay,
And we hear it already in the morning when it's down at the far end, which is the west side, Don?
That would be west,
Towards Lincoln?
yeah, towards Lincoln is west.
Okay, down the west side, we could hear it already, but once it comes, the trees and stuff that are on the other side of the canal, we don't hear anything in that area, alright? But Don was telling me that nothing was native there, so therefore it can be clear cut without a permit,
Correct.
so if,
And of course, you had a problem with lighting there, right?
yes,
And
we
clear
also have
cutting will help.
we have no security there whatsoever. Those two lights that are on the other side of the fence. I don't, who owns it, Don?
Those are FPL floods. I believe we own the lights and they maintain them for us.
They are no use to us whatsoever, because the trees are blocking the lights. They're there, we see them lit, we've even had to replace one year, but nobody cuts them down, nobody cuts back the trees for the security onto that street.
Okay,
And some of this is responsibility of FPL because we have utility line there. They have periodically been there and done some clear cutting along the tree, along the utility line.
Yes, but they're on the other side,
They kind of didn't get as far as you.
they don't have to come, and when I go down there and I offer them a $20 bill, I'm sorry, we passed it already,
Ask Fonny doesn't answer anybody.
No. 20 doesn't do it anymore.
Off on whiskey.
Marcia, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I was wondering if we've appealed to the Turnpike Authority as far as putting up those walls that they had.
I talked to them in 2015, and they said they're gonna put another lane in our area alongside of us, and they intend then to put up the wall.
Whenever they get to that.
It's so low that the wall would have to be 30 feet high to help you.
Yeah.
But they'll put something up that's 16, and then it's only gonna be a mild buffer, the sound is still gonna travel over.
By having even non-native trees, or whatever you wanna call them, what, the rooting system is what's helping that from not caving in. Why is it causing you to say that we wanna cut them down?
well, it's also destroying it's a double-edged sword. The vegetation does provide stability for the embankment, but it also destroys it. So as the tree grows, the vegetation grows, those roots go to the water. Those roots lift the soil, lift the finished grade at the toe of that canal, and impedes the flow.
So that means if you have so many trees there, yes, I understand that. Could we just go in and take out a partial amount?
Doesn't really work like that when you gotta resurface, reconstruct these canals. The land clearing guys will not do the work. It's not handwork, it's machine work. You can see Lake Worth Drainage District maintaining their canals all over the place right now. They let out a big contract about 2 years ago for about 25-30 miles of their canal sections. And you can see those guys recreating or regrading those embankments.
I just realized that canal, stinky and ugly as it is your flood control. That's what's keeping your.
Understandable.
So that's critical. That's
Yeah,
our number one.
I mean, they just
concern.
opened it up and the rain we had has done a lot, alright? It's not smelling as much as it has before.
We also have a reclaimed water has been turned on.
Yeah.
So we've been getting over 2 million gallons a
Yeah,
day.
I see.
It's been helping. It's been keeping the whole place,
Yes.
wet.
Yeah.
Did they finally turn the tap back on?
They
Yeah.
turned it on and boy,
Were you here
did they.
when Hassan was here?
Oh,
And I
yeah.
said to him, the water that's supposed to come to us, that haven't given us for a year, is going to the ballpark. Oh, no, the plant is bad, there's problems at the plant, the water isn't pure enough to let go. And here we are, ball season is over,
We get it.
We get
2 million a day.
amazing. And they've been giving us over 2 million a day, so.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
24/7, full blast. I'm
Is it running today?
It is, and
I'm gonna go check it
I'm
out.
keeping an eye on it because when they run full blast like that 27, I gotta keep an eye on the canal banks.
Oh, yeah.
We've had some erosion issues there before, we're pooling.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the items that's gonna be addressed. We're gonna create a riprap area
For that
and
stretch.
and a diffusing mechanism to slow down the velocity.
Marcia?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, is this a secret proposal of what they're gonna do with the canals? Is this what we're?
No, Seacrest isn't doing the canal.
No.
Okay. Oh, did we hear what Dan Cruz is? Maybe I missed it. Did he come with this proposal?
Dan Cruz is spearheading this project, he's the
Yeah, okay,
president.
so did we hear that? I might have missed that meeting, I don't know.
No, you haven't.
We haven't.
We haven't moved to that point yet, but he's leaving soon, they wanna know what the long-term project was.
Okay,
And talking about
Just
that
trying to give
project,
them a
how long of a period of time are we talking about as far as even starting it?
When it will start, I don't know the budgetary items on that,
I
but
understand that.
I can give you a duration of construction.
Duration, I don't care less about, once you see it started, you know it's gonna be completed, but the point is, when do you think anybody thinks it could be started? Now, this should be a WPRF UCO situation, doesn't it?
Yes.
Nobody's giving me an answer.
Well, Dan Cruz is supposed to come to us, and this is going on for months and months and months, like all these things, months and months and months, I mean,
Well,
it's ridiculous.
Nobody's touched this place for 40 years, alright? It's been a thorn in my side since I moved here. And I've gotten up in front of UCO and talked to Dave Israel, I've done everything. Nothing has ever been accomplished. And this is my time to voice it. I appreciate Don telling me that he had a meeting today. Okay, I'm talking to the engineer, but I'd like to hear from other people to see when can this be started?
You're
The
telling us,
stench is bad.
you're telling us to get on a stick.
The rats are bad, the raccoons, the snakes are bad over there. That area over there the grass has been dead since I've been here in December, alright? Everybody else gets irrigation, I get no irrigation, we have no security there. Please, we'd like to have something accomplished there. I'm the only one saying something, but I know everybody on Falkirk there has to have something kind of to say for what's going on. And my area is not bad, if you go on the other side of Hastings and see what it looks like in that canal now, it's worse than mine.
That's, that's real, the stub canal is even worse than what you got going
I
on.
know,
And yeah, I do
I
get
took a
calls,
ride the
I
other
do
day.
get calls from most of those associations. You're the only one that'll actually show up at a meeting, so here you are.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is a project that's underway, it's in very early days. But the reason I asked you to come was, I want you to believe me, you know, that we have an engineer working on it.
4 years ago, I went out across the canal and I had a little hacksaw, what do you call a hacksaw? A little saw, and I started cutting branches down so I can have the lights come down on our
And
property.
that's when the canal
And
was
we-
so dry, you could walk across
Yes,
like
you could.
Moses. Yeah.
Yes,
I
But
remember.
months have gone by since Dan Cruz is supposed to bring this proposal to us, why have months gone by? Why all this time, this is ridiculous.
I think Derek can answer that, we're in the research and
Proposal to actually do the work?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, let me expand on the process a little bit, the West Palm Beach facility was permitted under South Florida Water Management District as well as Lake Worth Drainage District jurisdiction. So we have to go back and research those original documents to make sure that what we design going forward as a remedy is in compliance with those permits. So in that process, we gotta understand, not only the canal design, but also the overall design of the community, because it's all interconnected. And then we have to go through the modification it's actually not a modification, but they consider it a modification permit to address that item and to go through the proper sequence and inspections to be in compliance with that permit. So there's a regulatory aspect of it, there's the engineering aspect of it, which is to provide a little bit deeper of a toe so that the area remains wet and you don't get that stench, as well as, cleaning up the vegetation that creates the rats, the mice, the raccoons and all that other inconvenient.
And Donna, when did all this start, do you remember?
oh, I think we put Derek on this, we put Derek on this, 6 months ago,
But you can understand this is what I'm leading to. We did a budget for this year, which ends in October for WPRF. There's nothing in the budget to fund what this is gonna cost.
yeah, we're still planning for it.
So we have to have it done so we can prepare a budget for the October period for their next year.
is there a proposal on the table yet though?
No,
No,
because they've gotta go through all the permit process to say what it is we need to do, how we need to
I
do
thought
it.
you just said there's a proposal in.
What about all the money in the infrastructure in the budget, what about all that money?
So there's that part of the issue that has to be addressed. And one of the things that's important here is to recognize he's gotta get code to agree what we're doing so we can actually begin the work. And it's not just one entity, there's a couple of them in there.
Is there a permit in place?
You have what they call an ERP, an environmental resource permit through South Florida Water Management District, and you also have the same permit through Lake Worth Drainage District.
It's in place.
Existing, that's how they were able to build the facility, is they had to justify that they're not gonna create a flooding condition for other properties or the property itself. So when that was originally done, that is now a record document, a legal record document that the entire community has to abide by. Part of that document is maintaining the drainage system. Well, to maintain the drainage system, you have that North Canal, which is a part of the drainage system, and it's not in compliance right now. These districts aren't heavy on enforcement until it creates a flooding problem or creates a monetary damage to somebody else. Then they come in, they hit you with a compliance notification, and then it's your responsibility to take care of it. They haven't done that to date, so you're actually being proactive in their eyes. But to answer your question, the permit's in place, but you can't just go back there with heavy equipment and start ripping it up without notifying them. That's when they get really mad, is when you start messing things up, and they get calls from people in the community, people outside of the community. Say, hey,
Neighbors.
there's heavy equipment coming in here, ripping up the canal, I'm concerned it's gonna start flooding my area. Then they come in and say, why didn't you notify us? And then, then
There's
it
a
creates.
lot of red tape to doing these things, so it's a process. We're trying to get it done for this budget year. And that's the issue, what's being worked on.
Yeah, and if I could just close out, where I started is, the first process is doing the engineering process, putting together the modification permits. And then after we do the design and the approvals come in, that's when you release it to bid, because that is the design. That's what the contractor is gonna be bidding on.
So you're first,
Yes, yeah, I'm first in
you
the
throw it out there.
Yep.
Couple people come in and throw bids at you.
Yep.
You accept the bid, and then you once you have the money in place.
Right.
Yeah.
Then starting in November, the work can begin if
Yeah,
we have
so-
it done by the budget time.
So when we
budget is
get,
October,
We do the budget in October, the year
so
runs
the
November
earliest
to
anything
October.
can be started is
After October.
November.
our design is supposed to be done and everything's, is supposed to be done in 2 months. So all the research, the
So
regulatory.
you'll have it done before October.
Yeah, and then, after that, it gets released for bid, and, it's a closed bid process to some earthwork contractors. And those bids come in and, they're opened up in front of, the client.
Committee.
And this project's gonna come up again next week at the operations committee, you'll be able to watch that from home.
I'll see that one too.
And we're gonna treat this in more detail, but we just wanted to get the basics to you here while you're here, so you can, look us in the eye.
And like anything else, a job this big takes a little time to get moving.
Yeah, it's a mile's worth of
So
canal.
my area is a small area in compared to the other side of Hastings.
Definitely.
Yeah,
So we're talking about the whole. canal,
Exactly.
yes.
The whole North Canal.
We have to treat it as one entity, I mean, you really can't address it as a spot fix here
You
and
can't
there.
come in my place and say, I'll take care of him.
No, yeah.
No.
Because,
As much as we'd like to.
the regulatory impacts are the same regardless.
Is
You
there a
start
guesstimate? A guesstimate, I'm not saying,
How much?
a guesstimate
Yeah.
for, I would say you're probably, for all the vegetation removal, regrading, we've got some work to do down at the reclaim discharge point. So I would say you're probably in the range of 4 to 5, all things.
$1,000.
Yeah, 4 to 500, 400 to 500,000, between all the equipment, the vegetation.
Part of the consideration also is, if you have a native tree that's on the bank,
You
we
can't
may
touch
be
it.
required to, if we take it down, we may have to put up 2 or 3 different replacements, and that's up to George Galley, the tree hugger for the county, so.
Remember, you are on
You're
time.
much more kind than most
No, he
people
takes
when
that
they're
as a compliment.
describing George.
And the other point of the matter is, we're talking about abatement, sound abatement, et cetera, because of the turnpike. Once you clear cut, you're taking the roots out and everything, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
Don?
Are you taking the roots out?
yeah,
Yeah.
all the
Yeah,
exotics, all the exotics are gonna, it's gonna, you're taking the root balls
So
out.
just continue to
So if you take the root network out, how are you stabilizing the bank? Cause I assume the roots are a big part of that.
Well, there's gonna be additional fill material that's gonna be necessary.
Right.
And the requirements from both Lake Worth Drainage District and South Florida Water Management District under your original permit is a 2-to-1 embankment.
Okay.
2-to-1 slope. So that's, when you drive down and, look at all the canals running everywhere, and you see that steep slope,
Right.
that's a 2-to-1.
And that's the angle of repose.
Yeah.
Right.
If you make it any steeper, it's gonna slide, if you make it any shallower, it's
Exactly.
useless.
So the slope is essentially the stability.
That and compaction, there's a certain level of compaction that goes along with it.
And there's some amount of maintenance that keeps it that way too,
Yeah,
which we haven't been doing for years.
right, the other thing is, once it's regraded, resodded, and the grass is growing, you can't let all the trees grow back up, or else you're just gonna have the same issue in 20, 30 years.
So why not to have a point of planting native trees?
There most likely, part of the sound buffer is going to be planting with native or what they call approved species.
But the other point of the matter is, UCO and WPRF will be going for a basic budget rather than going all out and saying, oh, we're gonna plant trees for them too.
Well, here's the slippery slope of bureaucracies. Alright? This particular permit isn't required to be, it's a maintenance permit.
Right.
And it's a maintenance permit through South Florida Water Management District and Lake Worth Drainage District. Now, if you go to Palm Beach County, they're gonna expand the scope and they're gonna implement their landscaping and planting standards along that north line. And so now you just went from a $400,000 or $500,000 job to $750,000 to $800,000. Cause they're gonna require a canopy tree every 20 feet on center, that's just round it out to 5,000 feet. That's 250 canopy trees.
Yeah.
They run about, $300 to $400 a pop. So, and then you got shrubbery, and then you got the fencing.
So therefore, the fencing's there already though.
Well, after they get done ripping everything apart, it's not, it's
Maybe
gonna
not
be.
so
And
much.
that's the responsibility of the company that's ripping out, they should be repairing it.
Yeah,
That's.
I don't think fork-
anybody,
I don't think forklifts put fencing in.
Yeah, and at this point, it's part of the landscaping.
Yeah.
Just
you
leave
got-
us a check before you leave.
So, just to finish out that point,
But that,
we're not gonna be going to Palm Beach County for a permit, we're going to Lake Worth Drainage District and Water Management District for a permit.
so if
Because
I
it
make
is
a
a
phone
maintenance
call to Palm Beach County to say that they're not planting trees across the street,
Well,
Yeah, don't do that, please.
yeah. If somebody, when that does happen,
You will get the bill.
the issue will have to be addressed.
Whatever the
Because-
costs are, we're gonna be,
anonymously. I
no,
mean,
we're
it's
gonna
not
be,
Mr.
no, it's not
Anonymous.
anonymous, whatever the bill is, it's gonna be in the budget, we'll be paying it, it's our cost.
Because, the thing about, the unique aspect about Century Village is that you guys were built so long ago. 40 to 50, 40 to, 30 to
45.
45.
Exactly 50 years ago.
Yeah, so, when you guys were built, there weren't the regulatory planning and zoning approvals that there are today.
Right.
So when you do decide to do something like this or a capital improvement project that does go through the county, they take an opportunity to update your records. So in the update of records is a whole mess of things that cost a lot of money.
That's why I said, write us a check before you leave.
Yeah, so we're really looking at $1 million.
Oh, yeah.
By time this all gets,
Don't you share with WPR?
Yes.
This is Derek doing most of this
We always
meeting.
say,
Okay, did he
Who's
say
got the
that
deeper
a
pockets?
capital
they're both our pockets.
it's,
Well, that's
it's
what
your
it looks
money.
like. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, money on both of
That's
us.
what I wanted to check.
Who's gonna go up more money?
Right.
That's just a heading on the top of the paper, but all of us pay for it.
So I think,
Something has to be done. I'm
So-
sorry, gentlemen, I appreciate your assistance and your
Well, I hope by
Where you
now,
going? Stay
I
for
hope
the
by
rest.
now you know that we're actually working on the project.
Is it because I came here
No.
or is it because?
No,
It's all
we're
right.
just bringing you up to date, cause you know more about it now than you did before.
Of course I did.
And
Well,
it's-
Don
and
has
it's-
helped a lot, I
And
gotta
it,
say
and
that.
it is something we've been working on and we will follow it up till we get it
I
done.
could feel
But
you.
my only problem is, and I interrupt you, sorry, is that my main concern to come here was the security part of it. That was number one. Number two, when I heard clear cutting and that was the noise abatement, alright, that was number two. And the other point I wanted to bring up is that grass in that area is so horrendous. Rest of Century Hills looks gorgeous and we got an adopted kid that you don't give a hoot about, you know?
Yeah, basically, that strip has no irrigation.
I know it has
You
no
know, God irrigates it or it doesn't.
There's Seacrest over there, tell them they put it in.
Money
Don't pay for it.
Anyway, it's found under your
I mean, our place looks like crap, really does. So,
And I know we've been talking on the phone, but you feel you rolling your eyes when we're talking, so I really wanted you to come in and, you know, prove to you that we're actually, you know, treating this actually South Florida water.
I think we need to move forward.
gentlemen, thank you very much for your information and your time.
Thank you.
For your input.
Take care.
Thanks for coming, good, thank you for your support.
What else, Tom?
Alright, next up
Thank you very
is
much.
what we really have Derek here for, which is an update on the Century Boulevard, the Boulevard project. This is the walkway and the fence.
Alright, you want me to take it from here?
Sure.
Alright, so, there's three main elements to this project. The survey is the most important. As I tried to emphasize the importance of the survey here, because we're dealing with kind of a confrontational situation with the golf course owner. And then B, you've got the county at Haverhill, and then C, you've got Century Boulevard. So in the mix of all that, it's very important to get the survey right. And I went back and forth with the surveyor on exactly what we need to make sure that he understood the scope. And this is one of the few projects where a surveying number does come in higher than an engineering number. And so, he's got to balance, I think if you want me to reiterate the importance of the survey, he has to walk in the previous steps of the people that originally laid out the community, Haverhill Road, golf course, all those have to be put into one. That way there's no dispute afterwards. The last thing we wanna deal with is a dispute after that. It's probably not gonna come from the county because it's gonna be a permitted thing. We have to get that right-of-way connection permit to do anything in that right-of-way. So, that isn't the majority of the issue, it's that common property line with the golf course. So, if you have any questions on the research, recovery, and survey portion of the proposal, I'd be happy to answer any of those questions, otherwise I'll just, get into the engineering design and, round out the proposal.
Go for it.
Okay, so the engineering design, part of this process is, the land development requirements of Palm Beach County. We're gonna have to demonstrate certain clearances, certain separations, just as a matter of protocol. Once we get into their system, they wanna know where the clubhouse is, or not the clubhouse, the guardhouse is, how far it is from the road, the widths, the lane widths and everything. So what we're gonna have to do is once the right of way is consistent within the community, we gotta start cutting sections across that right of way to demonstrate to them that all of our improvements are within the property, within your property boundary. And then B, it's in compliance with their land development code. So that is, that's the engineering portion of it. The boundary and topographic information that we get from the survey is an essential part of that process to cut sections for the county to make sure that, they have the information that they're required.
How soon are you expecting that report?
For the survey? Well, as soon as, the contract is executed, he gave me a 3-week time frame. And that's based on his ability to pull the information off of the property appraiser. And then B, any ownership and encumbrance information that we have on the property for that stretch. And then, he doesn't see a problem getting the roadway information. That's all readily available through the county. They keep pretty good records in the road and traffic. But it's those two items mainly, the ownership and encumbrance report, and then any deed plat information within the Century Village community. So he gave me a 3-week time frame on that.
I would think that the property line is a straight line that goes from Haverhill all the way to Four Corners. However, there are huge palm trees that have caused the fence to deviate around the tree.
Yeah.
So that tree may very well be ours or on the line, and then we have to deal with removing that tree to put our fence on the proper line.
Exactly, and on the engineering side of it, that's why on item number 2, section C, I recommend that we all meet after the survey is done to find out exactly whose property line is where the trees are, where the fence is, and then that way we can start to say, okay, what do we wanna do with that south strip? I know that there was, what's that?
No, I'm sorry, I was talking to my neighbor.
Okay, you know, I know that there was talk about exploring a north option. That'll also, the survey information will also give me some some information on the feasibility of that as well. So, you know, that's why, you know, before I proceed with the final engineering plans, that's why I recommend covering those items in number 2 with the
This came out of the last meeting when we discussed possibly putting another walkway on the north side of Century Boulevard where one does not exist now.
Worst part of that is you got a lot of stuff that has to be moved. If you're gonna have a
Oh,
walkway.
yeah, and it gets awful skinny on that side as well. So, but we're looking into it.
Not a very good idea. Yes, Barbara?
Just a question for Donald, when did we have the last survey done by an engineer?
2013,
Okay, thank you.
For the entire facility or that area?
No,
Just that area.
Wallace Engineering did it, but just for that,
Okay,
that one line.
do you wanna see that at there?
for that one line?
Yeah,
Okay,
That's all.
yeah, that would be
Just
helpful.
establishing the.
send it.
Because that would give us what we, you know, the recorded information, the RRB and page numbers
Yeah.
of where that was recorded. It kind of, you know, tamps down on the scavenger hunt that we have to go through to
Okay.
find some of these
I'll get that to you
documents.
today.
That's a lockdown. It should be a lockdown. It's there, it was approved, that's the actual line.
You'd be surprised on how many property line disputes there are.
That was a property line dispute, that's why it was done.
Okay, so yeah, all the more important to have that information.
Exactly.
The reason we can't use it is that the one exception is it wasn't signed by Wallace.
Right.
So it doesn't make it official.
Yeah, it's not a legal document at that point.
No. Derek, do we have a proposal from you today or is that coming?
I sent the proposal last night.
Then-
Yeah, I copied everybody.
Then you got it.
I can
and
leave this one with you if you want me to.
Yeah,
just so
please, I'm
anybody
sorry, I
can review it.
didn't print that out for the committee, but I'll have it for you next time.
Yeah, I'll
I'll
just
send
leave
it
this one here
out by
for you.
email as well.
So yeah, I've got the proposal completely done. It, you know, highlights the different phases.
Right.
You know, it goes from the preliminary research and recovery to the design, and then, you know, if you know, the last item is more or less you know, if you choose to let it out for bid, it's just managing the RFP process to make sure everybody stays on target and we answer any questions, RFIs that the contractors may have.
Right, we have an officers meeting next week, so that you can take a look at that proposal then as well. All right, great.
Alright,
Okay,
I'll leave this with you guys, everybody here at the table. And yeah, I'll put together a scope for the reserve study.
Thank you.
Alright.
Ed,
Yes,
do we have any idea from the gentleman of how much approximately this proposal was?
I have it in front of me. We're looking at a total of just under $15,000, Barbara.
Okay, thank you.
Yes?
Alright,
All right,
anything
Derek,
else?
thank you.
No,
Unless there's any other
you hit all the
questions.
points.
Now,
thank you, Derek.
one
Maybe
question.
he has a question.
According to the
For me?
information we already have, about how many feet from where the original fence was to our property line approximately is there?
I haven't
Is it
seen
a
it for review.
guesstimate and an idea?
I think we, 1,500 is, no, 13 and change?
13 and change for
Yeah.
length, but the distance between the property line and the fence is inches.
Yeah, I mean, it's dead on the line.
In some cases, it's on the line, in some cases, it's on his side of the,
And that's what
The
makes
line.
it tricky, that and how close it is to the existing walkway.
and then I think code requires that the walkway, instead of being 4, be increased by another foot, so 5 feet wide. So it may mean we can't put any vegetation along the fence line on our side, because it's gonna push it too far, too close to the FP&L lighting and the existing palms. I mean, we can move the palms, but the lighting is another story.
And that's where we had the discussion of the physical and, you know, visual barrier.
Yeah.
And the precast wall versus vegetation and the fence and things like
Can
that.
we pave around the FPL poles? Is that a possibility of paving around it?
Oh, yeah,
Will we
they-
pave?
they-
No problem with
Yeah, they
that?
appear on sidewalks and so
Uh-huh,
forth.
okay,
You know,
yeah.
Go to
That's
downtown
not a problem.
West Palm, no. But I don't think we're going that far.
I think we might have to, but that's.
And that's, you know, those specific details, ma'am, will be brought to light with the survey.
Uh-huh.
That's when we'll know exactly how much road or area we have between the backside of the road and the property line. Then we know what to do after that.
All right,
All
Derek,
right.
thank you.
Thank you very much, y'all
Thank
have
you,
a great day.
Thanks,
Okay.
thanks, Derek.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Alright, guys, next piece of business, I've invited Cliff Cameron and Tony Giordano here today, as you all know, at the end of the month, we have a new, Seacrest will be our maintenance and our landscape and irrigation contractor. Cliff is our, gonna be our startup manager, he's gonna get the contract started for us, and Cliff and I will be spending some time together for the next couple of months.
Lot of time, huh?
Point of clarification, it's Seacrest Landscape,
Yeah.
not Seacrest Services.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
it's
Sure.
two different entities
Yes.
under the same roof,
Yes.
but they bring their equipment on site, they don't use the
Yeah.
equipment that's here.
We're right out of West Palm
Yeah.
Mountain Street. We're all intended. We called it Seacrest A last time.
Yeah,
Is that?
gotta call it something.
We had a little banter about that A and B. So,
Tony is our irrigation manager, he'll be managing the irrigation in the perimeter roads and the entry roads. I asked him to come here today, basically to introduce themselves, because we're starting a new venture with them. And also, there were two irrigation leaks that, because of the scope of the work, I really wanted them to explain it in person of what we got going on, and let you guys ask any questions that you have. So I'm gonna let them pick this up from here.
John, can I ask you a question
Of course you
before
can.
they start? Mr. Valentine, when he said he didn't have irrigation, was he talking about his association property or?
No, his association property is in good shape, and he takes care of his system.
Okay, so
We're
it's,
talking about the grassy strip on the north side of Falkland Street, which is not irrigated. That's a
okay,
God irrigated strip, so at the moment, it's pretty crispy over there.
I see, okay,
Alright.
thank you.
Alright, guys, you're up.
and one of the things too, Don, I'll just add is when we do the startup process, Tony is kind of my main man who goes and starts digging through the information and helps me compile it to put it together for you guys. So he's our department head, he's our irrigation manager, and he's got the tech, three, four techs out in the field getting that information to him, and I compile it for you, so we kind of work hand in hand.
You're gonna encounter problems because we have horizontal boring and so forth going on, and nobody knows at what strata the existing irrigation is. So they're drilling and they're gonna go perpendicular through a pipe or whatever.
It happens, I've talked with Lenny and Gaspar at length, I was with Gaspar this morning, we looked at a few areas.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's certainly a challenge, and given it's a matured property, at the time, well, if I were to install a main line today, I had to be top of pipe at 36 inches, so that's 3 foot. If it's a 6-inch main line, well, then I'm at 4 feet, you know?
Yeah,
That would be, that's standard code throughout the state pretty much.
but that code that exists today
But-
did not when they were
Kind of like
installed
what
then.
Derek was saying, when this facility was built.
There was no code.
There really wasn't,
This was the frontier.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
you made
I'm
the
from up
code.
north, so.
This is the Everglades.
Yeah,
Right,
I'm from upstate New York, so we have a little different codes up there.
sure.
That we actually have them, as opposed to down here, but they've really enforced that as years gone by, but however, on a mature property, I tried to do some research, try to find as-bills, blueprints, anything, and not even on microfilm. So it was difficult to find any information other than what I have with Gaspar, who's a fantastic gentleman and has extensive field knowledge of where things are.
He sure does.
And without having X-ray vision. So there's a lot of challenges, and Donald and I talked about,
Sure.
what was a loop main, and then we're pulling off of it, which when we do that, we kind of slow that water down. Originally, I'm sure they had a design in place, and irrigation is all a math problem. If it does not add up, then it does not work.
Then there's another situation, and I don't know how much of it we've resolved. We do have irrigation on the golf course for the village.
Donald did mention that to me.
Yeah, I think Golf's Edge and a couple of, yeah,
We try not to talk about that too much
yeah.
with the camera on.
But it does exist, we're gonna have to, at some point.
Yeah, we do have some
he's
infrastructure
gonna
on the
say,
property. Yeah.
get the
I
crap off my
think,
property.
after listening to Derek, it's somebody that you should get involved with.
Absolutely.
On that project. I can assist with what I know, as an irrigation
Sure.
contractor. But certainly Derek is gonna be the guy to go to on that one.
I mean, at some point, we are gonna have to consider moving whatever infrastructure is on that golf course back onto our property.
Yeah.
Since we have some,
How does it run? I mean, it's just a main line that's running through the property?
yes,
Okay, so it's not,
It was just the easiest play to put the pipe at the
So the
time.
pump is not on that property, the pump is
No, the
somewhere
pump,
else.
yeah, it's actually the perimeter pumps that are fueling that, and it wasn't originally designed for that, that was an add-in later.
Okay,
And
yeah,
that's why we have areas where you see stressed shrubs all over the
Yes.
property, they were never properly irrigated from
do
the
we
day
know
they
the
were,
diameter of the pipe?
no clue.
I'm thinking if it's that far of a stretch, it's gotta be
Could
at
be
least
six or better.
Yeah.
No, I've never seen 6 back there, the last piece I saw was 4,
Okay,
so, yeah, so there's that.
Yeah.
So
well,
this
that's
is,
a little bit of a help, because when you're trying to relocate a main line,
right,
you know, it's obviously, if it's 6, it's a big pipe and,
Sure.
you know, every inch counts, so if we're stuffing it in, relocating it wherever, however it runs.
alright, as you can see, Seacrest has gotten on the stick early. Gaspar actually located these 2 jobs and referred it to Tony. Tony came in and checked them out, brought me over. And we have 2 proposals, they're both DNIs. One is for North Drive and Cardiff Street, and there are pictures of both. And another one is at Bath and Salisbury. These are sections where the pipe is running underneath the roadway. So we have to open up a piece of roadway, find where the leak is, fix it, and repair the road. There's pictures, if you like to look. There was talk of perhaps using a camera, but I mean, it's pretty obvious where these pipes are and where the leaks are. But given that we're dealing with a new vendor and this is a fairly big scope of project, I'd like you guys to take a good look at it, ask Tony any questions you have, and then I'm gonna ask you to vote on it.
And what's the proposed amount, please?
One job is for 3,500, do not exceed, the other is do not exceed for 2,500.
Okay, thank you, Donald.
You're welcome.
And is this Seacrest Landscape doing it or Seacrest Services?
Tony's gonna be in charge of this job.
And Tony is from where?
Seacrest Services. Seacrest,
Thank you.
yeah, he works for Clip.
Can we get a correction on that, Donald?
Sure.
It's not Seacrest Services.
It's Seacrest.
Landscaping.
Landscaping.
I guess we should agree on a common nomenclature, so we
Yeah,
don't do this at
that's what I
every
just said, we're
meeting.
gonna
Let's
get
call you guys Seacrest Landscaping.
That's perfect, that's
Yeah, it
good.
has to be.
And let's call the Lenny Crew the Seacrest Association
Okay, perfect.
regime.
Yeah,
So
because,
this is Seacrest Association?
No,
See,
this would be the Steve Turgeon regime, that we're,
Landscaping.
yeah, indeed. Now, I don't doubt that
landscaping.
internally,
irrigation.
Seacrest is gonna call on each other for support. If they need Gaspar, they're gonna call Gaspar. In this case, Gaspar pinged on Tony. So that's the institutional depth that we're looking for.
Is this the only bid you got for these jobs, Donald?
It is.
Thank you.
All right, guys, any questions?
Yes, sir.
Wow, everybody's reading.
Is there any way that you can tell ahead of time if the main line is broken?
Well, it certainly is broken because it's a pressurized line, and when we turn it on, the water is seeping out.
Water shoots out of the out of the street.
I understand that,
We've
but
spotted-
you're
we've
saying
spot-
during your quote, if the main line isn't broken.
Well, if it's not broken in that area, then we'll have to continue to follow down along the break. But where we located the main line was on the side of the road by the dumpsters. On each side, on each location, there's a dumpster area, and we've dug around there to locate where that main line crosses. So everything else, and from what I understand, you had I guess water utilities out here to confirm, they confirmed that it was irrigation.
Right,
And it was not their
a
water.
portable problem.
When we activated the pumps, when I was with Gaspar, water was seeping out. And, you know, that's just kind
I
of.
think part of our problem now is the age of the pipe that's down
Yeah.
there. Yeah, I think it's just PVC, not CPVC.
That's correct.
And it's, of course, brittle, And when the trucks come to pick up the dumpster,
Yeah.
they're putting pressure on the ground and it can only bend so many times and then it's.
Exactly, and at what depth we found it at approximately, I would say, just about a foot deep.
Yeah.
You
So
know?
there's gonna be compression every time the truck
Yeah,
goes over.
and obviously we have to compact the road, we rent
Sure.
we use a compaction machine, and then we use the cold patch to patch the area.
And just to answer the committee's question, which hasn't been asked yet, I did confirm that Atlantic Broadband had not been working in the area when the leaks were discovered. So we can't pass the bill on to Atlantic Broadband.
They've always got the end up.
You sort of got into my next question. Looking at these pictures, are we sure that cold patch is gonna be okay for this big of an area of patching?
Based on what I've seen throughout the community, it's cold patch has been used multiple.
I mean, I hate to have that happen and all of a sudden have to get back 30 days later and have to have it dug out more and then have asphalt reapplied there.
David, that's a judgment call I'll make when I see the size of the hole. If it gets to the point that I think it needs hot asphalt, I'll call in the paper.
I'm just looking at the pictures they have here now, they look like pretty good sized areas
Yeah.
that you're just saying, well, cold patch is gonna do it. I'm not convinced that it will.
I mean, once we get past, I'd say 3x3, at that point we call in the paper.
Yeah, I don't anticipate it
Patch
being.
literally needs patch. If it's more than that, then it's a paper. Alright, if there are any more questions, can someone please make a motion on this?
Excuse me,
Yes, ma'am.
are you taking offense with Seacrest in the room?
I don't know, is it appropriate to do so?
I think so.
We can step out.
Yeah, sure, okay. Yeah, good catch, I hadn't thought of that, Barbara.
Okay, Donald.
Alright, we're good.
Somebody wanna make a motion?
That seems like an
You have a
awful lot for
quorum?
a cold patch.
Yeah, we do, there are 4 of us.
And that's 12 inches.
Did somebody make a motion?
Yeah, so that we can get into discussion.
I'll make a motion to accept the proposal.
Anybody second?
I'll second.
Alright, we have a second, we have a first.
Discussion?
The page he's looking at right now shows us what,
This is,
That's a different job,
fairway,
Herb.
oh,
That's
it's
a
a
different
different
job,
job?
Herb.
I
Yeah.
mean, okay. Oh, cause it's part of,
Nope, that's the next job.
okay, that's the next job, alright.
That'll leave a mo-
Discussion?
Look, it seems like a straight up, it's exactly as they're presenting it, it's just a straight up irrigation leak, happens to be under a road. What's going on here is that the leaks are so bad now that they're decreasing pressure in the section, so the zones aren't getting proper irrigation, and most of those associations are Seacrest buildings, that's what's really driving this. So by fixing these leaks, you're going to restore pressure to the zone, and we'll have less complaints from the associations that the sprinklers aren't working right. It's pretty much cut and dry, and that's how it is.
Discussion?
Yeah, I think that as far as I'm concerned, that this is something that has to be done.
Yeah.
The longer you take, discuss and put it off, it's gonna cost us a hell of a lot more money, and we don't know what extra damage is gonna cause by the water erosion underneath the roads.
Well, if you look at page 2, which is the back page of the pictures, that pit right in the middle is exactly where the water geysers up when the irrigation is on, that's only gonna get worse. I think for the first time around, I think they shot this one pretty straight, and I'm confident that this is really what the problem is.
Yeah.
And keep in mind that this is a do not exceed, so this could wind up being less, it could wind up being, they're just covering their bases. And if it turns out to be more, then we gotta go back to the drawing board. Alright?
any other questions? Any other comments?
Donald, is the,
Comment?
both pictures are the 2 jobs, the one that says located 50-foot R? Is that part of the?
And let me
Job
get,
is which?
I think they're the two different jobs, David, but don't hold me to that. I took these pictures quite a while ago.
Behind you.
Marcia?
Just a minute, Barbara.
How many people do you have for quorum without the offices?
Four with a seven member board,
Seven members.
committee.
Barbara, did you wanna speak?
Yeah, I just wanna ask, how long ago did we discover this?
Oh, this has been, I've known about it for some time, Barbara, but, we kinda had other things going on, and finally, Seacrest came to us and said, you guys really need to get on this. So,
Okay, the only question I have, and I have no problem with the Seacrest doing it, because they know everything and their prices are good, is that it would have been advisable, since you had the time, even if you had Chabot, or whatever the other company you use,
Right.
that has checked with us, to have gotten the bid, it just would look better, that's all.
yeah, indeed.
Look down at least two bids, not just Seacrest. Thank you.
Well, that's something we can discuss now that our fellows are out of the room. We do have two irrigation contractors that work for us on a regular basis. Eric Chabot takes care of our pumps, Seacrest takes care of our pipes. I have no problem getting two bids from those two vendors, or a third if you like, going forward. Is that the way you want me to play it?
I think that's the way it should be, the rest of the committee can voice their own opinion, right now we'll do what we have, don't
Right.
get me wrong, Donald.
No, I understand, but go.
Future might be advisable.
Well, what do you guys think? I
I
mean, the
think
way.
we ought to pay for it now and get it done.
Oh, no, I'm talking about going forward procedurally.
Going forward, we always want to have more than just one
bid.
proposal. I mean, we've always said that for everything we've done,
No,
we wanted two or three at
up until
least.
now, we actually have three irrigation contractors have been working on a property, and I like that triple redundancy, particularly with this
So
old
you
system.
have three, you
But we're
get
about
three
to lose
proposals.
one when we lose Brightview. I don't think they'll be interested in working on property after this. So we're basically down to the two that work on the property regularly. So it'll basically be A against B each time. Do you want me to start bringing in other contractors as a third bid? 'Cause the reason I'm asking is these guys don't like being jerked around. And the third guy, knows he's the third guy, and after a while, you run out of Rolodex.
Yeah.
So basically what I'm asking for is guidance. Do you want things to go the way they were, where basically I use Seacrest for the pipe work, because he's cheaper, he's billing me at $42.50 an hour for most of this work. And for the pumps, we've been using Chabot Irrigation, who bills at a higher rate because, pumps are more involved work. But I have no problem with it. The problem is am I causing a continual Chabot versus Seacrest problem?
Well, I think we know that the quality of the work that the two people are doing,
That's why we have
they're
it.
similar.
Yeah.
And there's no competition there, I feel, I don't know, it's up to.
Yeah, I'm totally cool with it. It's just as long as it's okay with you guys.
John, how do you know
Roger?
it's cheaper if you don't have other quotes?
Well, because in the last 2 years, I have invoices going back where I basically negotiated a $42.50 per hour labor rate on the Seacrest work, and I believe $65 on Chabot work, and the reason we have that disparity is one type of work.
I think you should always get more quotes.
Sure.
I don't think they should be so comfortable.
I agree.
I think that's the point, they shouldn't feel that comfortable.
Look, it's always better to have at least three, if you can get it.
Right.
And that's the question, if you can
Right.
get it, get it, if you can't, then you say, look, I tried, I can't.
And this is a good discussion to have now when we're just starting with a new vendor, how you guys wanna play from here on out. It sounds like you want me to get two bids for everything, and I'm fine with that.
It makes for a better fit.
At least.
Well, then it becomes a bid committee.
Exactly,
Right, and
And
rather-
because otherwise, we're just,
Right, well, why are we, well,
we don't know.
I mean, I didn't give you any bids to look at, you're the bid committee,
Exactly.
but you're also the infrastructure committee. So, which kind of works out now, because now I bring you everything. Even when it's a sole source vendor, it's still infrastructure, so I'm bringing it to the infrastructure committee, and I'm happy to have that oversight,
So
so.
that's why I wanted to change the name from just plain bid committee
Yeah.
to bid and infrastructure, because
Right.
most of what we do deal with is
Yeah,
Both.
it just makes perfect sense.
But wherever we can get additional bids, get it. If you can't, then you can't.
Right, and we're
You
gonna
can
come to,
tell
we're
us.
gonna come to one of those today.
You wanna call a question?
Yeah,
Yeah.
before I talk, pardon my ignorance, tell me your name so I can add you to the
Hayward Williams?
Hayward Williams.
And I believe, weren't you an engineer of some
Yeah.
sort?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not work.
Interested in getting down to the
Is-
Stanley things,
Oh,
I've actually
okay.
done
Some
some.
Okay.
of some sort.
I think you see, your paperwork's still current, as far as I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so the motion is to repair the leaks at the northeast quadrant, as noted and not to exceed cost, correct?
Right, 3,500 and
3,500.
2,500 total.
Yeah. David is, Ed Black,
Yes.
David Boaz,
No.
Stuart Richland,
Yes.
Barbara Cornish,
No,
John Hess,
Yes.
Sandra Cooper,
Yes.
Hayward Williams,
Yes.
Herb Finkelstein,
Yes.
Tom Guanaja, yes. John Bragg.
Yes.
Okay, so it's 2, 4, 6, 8 to 2 carries.
Alright, and just for the record,
It's four,
sorry,
Did I miss you?
Is because I do not feel that the cold patch.
No, that I assumed
Yeah,
as,
we
as
assumed
conversation went on.
yeah, just,
Not against the
So
word.
what is our recourse in the event that the cold patch fails?
Well,
They'll come back, remove the cold patch and put
if
them
I
in?
see more than a 3x3 patch,
Yeah, it's-
I'm not gonna say no cold patch, I'm gonna bring the paper.
Sure,
So, cold patch is just if it comes out, I mean, if this piece here, if it just turns out they're digging here, absolutely cold patch, it'll be fine. But if it's any bigger than that, I'm gonna call it paver, and I got paving guys coming, you gotta
Sure.
look at that next, so it shouldn't be a problem.
okay.
and
excuse me.
but we already said it wouldn't exceed 3,500.
Yeah.
And,
Well, that'll be a different job, and I'll bring it to you.
right, so it'll have to be
Barbara's trying to say something.
Yes, Barbara?
Yes, if we have to use my reasoning was the same as David's for hot patch, if you have to bring in a paver, let's say, to make it right, which I know you'll do what's right, Donald, then would that still keep it within the price that we're giving you?
No, would it be-
leeway with?
No, it
No,
would be
it's another
extra, and in which
contractor.
case I'm bringing it back to the committee anyway.
Okay.
All right.
Then it would not matter because it has to be done, so I think that we should just have to give you the right to do it. How much would a hot patch be versus a cold patch?
Depends
Depends on size.
Depends on the size, we just don't know,
That's the unknown.
that's why we're in do not exceed
The
territory,
unknown factor, like
we just don't know.
voted on,
Right.
no?
exactly, it's a leak, you dig it, you find it, you make your best guess. But,
Okay, thank you.
I mean, if it exceeds $1,000, I'm bringing it to the committee anyway, just as an infrastructure item and a report.
But it would have to be done because you're in the process of fixing a road, you can't leave it unpaved, so you'll have to make that decision.
No, not
Donald.
necessarily, I can cold patch it temporarily, which is what I've done on another job recently. I'll stabilize the road if it becomes bigger and then bring it back to you. Ultimately,
Can I ask you a question, because I don't know much about paving, if you cold patch it, knowing that it needs hot patch, would then the company that you bring in have to rip up the cold patch and put on hot patch? Would
Yeah.
that be more
Yes.
expensive?
yes, but
Yeah.
a bag of hot patch, a bag of cold patch is all of, I don't know, $40. We're not talking about tearing down the World Trade Center and rebuilding it, it's just it would be a temporary patch till we can get the paper back.
And
This
just,
is a learning process, thank you.
and just to clarify, Don,
Yes,
all the officers are counted in the vote, but it's actually the 4 people who
Correct.
make up the quorum decides whether we accept or not.
correct.
Recommend or not.
Right, recommend or not. Which we're doing now, we're just recommending.
Alright, does anyone, while we got these guys here, do you guys wanna talk to them about other things, about landscaping,
because-
about, no, that's a different job, Herb.
Okay,
But they're gonna be our new landscaper and irrigation contract, I assume you guys must have some questions
I
about that.
got one.
Want me to bring it back in?
I just got one question.
I get it.
I got it. Right over.
One and a half questions.
You you do some notary work?
Ken?
I don't see where they are.
They probably left.
Oh, they left probably.
Alright, well,
No, they didn't, they left the stuff.
that simplifies things.
There.
Alright, guys, thank you, we appreciate it. I just asked the committee if they have any other questions regarding the upcoming contract and our new landscaping and irrigation, so the floor is open. Guys, ask what you need.
Are there any blueprints or as-bills that we know?
We figured you had it.
Okay.
There's an assumption that Seacrest Services has a set of plans. And we had asked them if they could try to locate it, give us a clue on what's what, and no answer, so.
Steve Terza was working on that from
Alright,
the onsite, cause someone said that they might have something or something.
Yes,
so-
cause I think they were the original ones to install it.
They,
way
they,
back
they
when.
were the original.
Oh, that's good to know too, cause I with Steve checked our off, we just did a big office move up there. So when they cleaned out the warehouse, we pulled out every single blueprint we have, and there was nothing from that for irrigation, but he's probably still following up.
But
with
you can
response.
detect where the water is flowing, but you can't tell the size of the pipe.
but with that excavation, you know, and then it's digging around a couple of feet, cause most you have your primary main lines, which usually are larger than your secondaries. And it could be, you could have a 6-inch main line, drop down to a 2.5-inch main line.
Yeah, and
depending
the
on
thing
what
is, no matter what size that pipe is, depending upon the depth, the sound transmission is gonna vary. The closer to the surface, bang,
Yeah.
the further away, bing, yeah.
Exactly.
And ultimately, in our startup, we'll identify some of that, so I'm sure there's issues gonna come up. We'll see what the valve's hooked onto, maybe we look at putting gate valves in throughout, so you can section, if they don't have them already. So that's kind of what we do on the startup too, that way you can shut parts of the system without shutting the whole
Whole
system.
system, yeah.
So they're originally designed like that, but usually they rust away, they don't work anymore, who knows where they are. So that's one of the things that we always like to upgrade to, is put a couple of gate valves in, it doesn't hurt, it just gives you the ability to close off the main line.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's inexpensive.
And we realize you guys are gonna crawl before you walk, there are gonna be mishaps and whatever, but that's all part of the game.
Yeah, boots on the ground,
Yeah.
and just walking every inch of your property, that's how you get to know it. And, see what the little, nuances and what makes it work, why is this low pressure? Are we running too many clocks at the same time that are running off the same pump? And that's what from when I talked with Gaspar,
Sure.
because that's his biggest challenge, and the challenge was staggering the water windows. So if you have 15 zones over here and you're watering, say, 4 hours on that, well, then we have to calculate the next clock, because if we're running 2 at the same time, we're diverting water in different directions, tremendous amount of friction loss,
Sure.
and then decreased volume. So then when it comes out the sprinklers, it's like,
You're just a drizzle.
yeah, it's a drizzle, so, but he's been doing a great job with that, but like Cliff said, finding out where these locations are, what clocks are running off of what pumps will determine where you would put your gate valves,
Sure.
isolation valves.
So you'll kind of get a picture of, let's just say clocks and pump stations, and you'll kind of have an analysis of those. Then we'll kind of have analysis of the main line, then we'll kind of look at the valves and look at the head layout. So it'll be different sections, so it's a little easier to digest. And it won't be like a 200-page document that you can't get through. It'll be nice and simple, we'll take pictures, and that's kind of what we use for the future planning of the community, what you wanna do, so.
So whatever we do, when we notify you that there's a break and we have a schematic, we can say we believe it's a 6-inch pipe and it's
Yeah,
located.
it really benefits
Yeah.
everybody
Sure.
involved,
Yeah.
it's-
Then there's no searching and exploring.
Exactly.
Now my understanding of the perimeter system, the pressurized system, is that it was originally designed to irrigate just the entrance roads and the perimeter roads, that's it. Over the years, as we went off pumps, and we went off wells, whole residential sections were patched into this system, which it wasn't designed to irrigate.
Yeah.
So we have all of, say, Oxford and Plymouth operating off that system, one designed for that. You'll probably hear from Gaspar about the concretion that we found in some of the branch lines that
I saw
they're
that.
completely clogged.
Yeah.
We've also linked in all of Gulf's Edge, possibly part of Kingswood and Southampton into that system. I think this thing is working at 200% of what it was designed to.
Yeah,
It's a good
So it's no wonder that these cocoa plums that we planted 10 years ago are now stressed to the point that they're looking raggy because they were never really irrigated properly from day one.
And like he said, the water window is critical if we're sharing water.
Yeah.
Cause, you know, if the left arm's not talking to the right arm, you just don't know where the water's going and you're pulling a lot, so that's.
You're getting nothing.
Even
Yeah.
Greenbrier had a pump, had a well.
Yeah, sure, you all did.
Have you had a lot of pump issues?
Well, I think
Since
we
then?
replaced most of the pumps.
Yeah, we did, as of 2 years ago, but over time, we've made some investment there.
Okay.
New concrete slabs, new pump motors, pumps. We enclosed all the pump areas to keep,
Cause people go out and
keep the homeowners out of
turn them
there.
on whenever they want to.
Yes, yes, it's
Um,
important.
And it affects the whole system.
And you know, I have more than one property manager on the property and I've gotta manage that circus. So little by little, I see we're spending less money on the pump section of the system,
Mhm.
but I think we're spending more money on the distribution system, the pipes.
Right.
And as you know, we have another contractor that does preventive maintenance on our pumps and he does the meter readings and reporting to
Fantastic.
Southwest
Oh,
Florida
good.
Management District. The way it seems to be working now is both entities are working with each other pretty good. One's calling on the other and you know, redundancy is always a good thing.
Yes,
So we're getting there.
that's good. You gotta crawl before you walk, right?
Yeah,
Right.
indeed.
So the contract starts May 1st, correct?
Yeah.
And your crew, not Seacrest Services, the Seacrest
The
landscape.
landscape crew.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what's coming in here,
yes.
okay, and that starts May 1st. We did put a thing about Haverhill outside the gate.
Yes, we put into the contract a quarterly maintenance of the grass swale outside Haverhill Road and scrape out underneath the Eureka's. And that'll be in addition to whatever the county service gives us, which isn't much. Additionally, we've also planned on an as-needed just a litter cleanup, and that's gonna be handled by a janitorial contractor. Basically, I'm gonna say once every other week, Jose will go out there with the golf cart and pick up litter, and that's it.
Okay, but when will that quarterly start? It won't start May 1st, it'll,
No, the first one will be the beginning of July. I did we did one, last weekend? Where Seacrest came in and just mowed and picked up litter. And that would be your first quarterly. We didn't do the underneath the Eurekas, keep the cost down. Now, the next one will be beginning of July,
But
beginning of the
that'll be-
next quarter.
that'll be their actual first one.
Yeah, and I just will do the beginning of the quarters just to keep it straight in my head so I don't forget. Beginning of each quarter will be Haverhill,
Okay,
alright?
that's what I was thinking.
It'll look nicer out there.
And we'll even map that out too, we'll map out what areas.
I think that the litter has decreased somewhat since they opened up
Yes.
Roebuck Road again.
Yeah.
Because what happens is, we have the traffic light, everybody stops there and they're coming home with a cup of coffee or whether they throw it out the window.
Or natural light beds, yeah, I'm picking a lot of that up.
Yeah.
Marcia?
What I noticed coming in the Haverhill entrance yesterday is whoever cleaned up the outside left the debris just where the sewer is outside, right? Next to our entrance, you know?
Yes, that wasn't a left, that's from the torrential rain we had a couple weeks ago. I've got Jose out cleaning those off one by one, it's gonna take him a while to get that one.
It's outside though, outside.
It's outside, yeah.
Outside.
Yeah, no, it's on his list, he's been getting to 1 or 2 a day, because he only has a couple hours to work on it each day. So, yeah, he'll eventually get to it. But that's gonna be on Seacrest also monthly as well, it'll be on their plate to keep those drains clear of leaves and debris.
You and
I think that's it, guys.
Thank you, guys.
So
Appreciate it.
we're expecting the grass to be as green as your shirt.
Yeah.
I have spray paint.
We'll be spending a lot of time now, so.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Alright, guys.
Thank you.
See you
Nice
soon,
talking
thanks for
to you.
coming. Alright, should we talk about paving now? Alright. Next job is Atlantic Southern. Now, this is a change order from our last batch of paving jobs that you guys approved last month. We ran into a problem on one of the jobs, the rest of them are all complete satisfactorily. When we pulled up the bad patch over at Fairway Street, Southampton. We found that for reasons I cannot explain, the asphalt there is over 12 inches thick. I mean, Northern Maine doesn't have 12-inch thick, I don't know why this is, because
Could it be, it's in the vicinity of that irrigation patch, isn't it?
no,
No?
that's a different patch a little
Because
bit.
that would have meant that the soil kept settling and they kept.
Yeah, no, that was my first thought, but no. There's no irrigation under there, the reason we dug it up in the first place was there was a huge tree root pushing up the entire road. And we got the root out, the root's gone, but what happened here is, 13 inches instead of, 3 to 4 inches, well, this is more material and another day's labor, so I stopped the job at that point. Cause we were looking at a $6,500 change order, and I'm not authorized to make that kind of sign off on that kind of thing. Originally, he was talking $2,000, and I was ready to just approve it to get it done, but that's too much. The road is stabilized, they put an asphalt patch in just to stabilize it. We've got barriers up, but we're gonna have to come back and do this. Change order is for $6,500. It's basically material and time. We're not, obviously not gonna pour 12 or 13 inches of asphalt here. It's going to be lime rock built up to 3 to 4 inches, and then an asphalt overlay. So I'm basically asking you guys to approve a change order on a previous job.
Question,
I think the picture pretty much speaks for itself, but of course I'll answer any questions you have. Yes, Barbara?
yes, I know you use Atlantic, Southern Atlantic, whatever it is, paving.
Right, this was their first job for us.
Right, previously you have used Federal on the bus stops, am I correct?
We did.
Okay, I was just wondering, does this look like a normal price, or should we have gotten a price also from Federal?
I think that the change order itself would likely be about the same because material costs with material costs. The reason that we switched over to this vendor to give them a chance is they were significantly cheaper than Federal Maintenance.
Okay, I'm just saying it wouldn't hurt to have gotten another Federal Donald, I understand.
Right, we discussed this at previous meetings that we wouldn't be bidding out paving work. We basically said, let's try another vendor, and we're looking to see if he works. Typically, we didn't bid out paving work, we just stayed with a trusted vendor until we found out that we really were overpaying, as it turns out. So,
How big a spot is this in the road?
oh, this is huge, this is 20 feet by 12 across?
Yeah.
It's a big patch.
Yeah.
Big, it's big, okay. Thank you.
You have a question?
David?
We did have two quotes for the last 7
We did.
jobs. And with this repair change order would only be, off the top of my head, around $2,400 more than what the original quote was from the other vendor. I do not think that Federal Maintenance would have bid this job at only another $2,400 extra.
Right.
So you're saying
When I was in the pole barn business, there always was a clause, if you had excessive roots when you're digging or run into excessive rocks, of course, an expected change order is going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't think either company would have been able to note that this was going to happen because of the depth of not only the tree root, but also of the asphalt.
And David, I think
No one
you,
likes to pay a lot extra money,
Wow.
but
Uh,
I don't think that,
and
if we'd have to get a change order from Federal, Maintenance, it would have been
It'd
this
be
cheap.
more money, yeah.
So I think all in all, we're probably still on the plus side.
Sure.
yeah,
And the further thing is that they did a job for my association. They did a very nice job. We're pleased with how it turned out. Now, we don't know how it
Hold up.
how it holds up, we don't know, but I mean, the appearance of it is very nice, they were very clean, and they took everything away that they had to. Just throwing this out at everybody, on the cost of this change order as well.
Now paving is something we're gonna continue to do, we're gonna have the paver in every 4 to 6 weeks. And there's a reason for this. One is there's always work, right? And I only prioritize the work that has to be done right now. Basically roadways that are have a problem and walkways, is it a trip and fall situation? By having them in on a regular basis, 4 to 6 weeks, we're establishing a pattern of regular maintenance. And when it comes to an insurance claim, that's a good thing to be able to show. So this was actually Fausto started this program. All we're doing now is changing vendors and saving some money. Is there any other questions? Are there any other questions on this change order?
So it's going to be 12 inches.
No,
No, no,
no,
no,
they're going to fill in.
the hole is 12 inches.
They're gonna lime rock it up until
Up
3
to-
or 4 inches.
Okay.
And then do a standard 3 to 4 inch overlay.
What will they,
And
okay,
then-
Right.
And then compact it.
the whole thing will end up being
Oh, yeah,
even,
level
the way
with
it
the
was.
rest of the road.
Exactly, no dips.
No,
I just wanna make
No,
sure it's
put in-
12, it's 12.
yeah.
Put in a
Now, we
speed
still-
dip instead of a speed hump.
We have a speed hump on South Drive?
Well, you do now, because
Yeah.
that job turned out to be a little bit of a hump there.
Yeah, yeah.
I've,
Which doesn't hurt as a speed hump, you know, it's not
it's just
bad.
annoying.
Yeah.
Every time I roll over it, it aggravates me. What I've asked, this contractor to do for me, and I had originally asked the previous contractor, the next time you come, guys, can you try to roll it out a little more? But we're not using him anymore, so, I'm gonna ask this guy to do it for us
Sure.
gratis.
Yeah.
Right,
It was a huge route that you took out. I remember this.
that was the biggest one I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It was bigger than this one, and this one's pretty big. And I think it's important to note that I know there's a lot of discussion over the quality of our previous road job. I don't care who did this job, these routes don't understand, they'll push up anything.
Well, we know that.
I mean, I've seen
So
slabs.
this is something you couldn't foresee,
No.
and it's just a natural course of things, and
Yeah.
you're gonna have to live with it and pay for the repairs, and
Yeah.
that's all there is to it.
I mean, we kinda can foresee, if there's a route and it's next to the road, sooner or later, you're gonna push up the road. It's just a matter of when. And we just basically attacking,
Is there any way of a proactive, going around and looking at the trees and
Yes.
examining the root system and
Absolutely.
chopping out some? Maybe that's something that these guys will have to do too, so that if we can do that, we can eliminate, well, we won't, maybe not eliminate,
Cut it off
but
early.
reduce,
Yeah, cut it
right?
Reduce the density.
listen,
Yeah.
other properties have a company like this on contract, just like we have the pump guy or the irrigation guy, and they come once a month and survey the entire property, mark what needs to be done immediately, bring it to a committee, and it's just a regular thing. We don't do that here, and it's a cost thing. That would be a hefty contract.
If we came across a route, could we not cut it at the line of demarcation between the asphalt and the grass?
Sure we can.
And just let it rot, and another 8 or 9 years later, when it becomes nothing and there's a settlement, then we
Right.
deal with it.
Could we do that? Sure. I think I would consult.
No, John?
No, I was just thinking, hell, I ain't gonna be here in 8 or 9 years, what do I care about it?
Attaboy, John.
That's a good Century Village approach.
That's what I hear every time I mention something, I'm not gonna be here, what the hell do I care?
I would consult with an arborist or something like that, cause I'd be very concerned with, I had a incident in my past where I cut a tap root and had a tree fall down in front of a church. But I would bring a tree guy at that point and say, is it okay to cut this root? Because it isn't always okay.
John?
Well,
I was gonna make a motion, we go ahead and pay this $6,650 and proceed with patching this roadway.
I'll second that one.
Okay, so John made the. and-
Dave's got a hand up.
David?
I don't remember, Donald, is this repair go across the entire roadway?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
about 20 feet
Just
of
so,
length
just so
total.
everybody knows about it,
Yeah.
just not the half part,
They only tore up one side of it,
Correct.
but they're gonna do the whole thing.
just want everybody to know that.
This is one of the two, if you remember the last batch of jobs, this was one of the two big ones, the rest of them were little
Right.
guys.
right,
I actually expected to have trouble at the other big job down the other end of the property, it turned out to be easy peasy. And this one, which I expected to be The easy job, this was the pain in the bed behind, so every day's a different day.
Time 11:20.
So we have a motion, is there a second?
Yep, John Gregg seconded.
Good.
Okay, let's take a roll call. Ed Black,
Yes.
David Boaz,
Yes.
Stuart Richland,
Yes.
Barbara Cornish,
Yes.
John Hess,
Yes,
Sandra Cooper,
Yes.
Haywood Williams.
Yes.
Alright,
I'm sorry.
welcome.
That's all right.
Didn't realize. Herb Finkelstein,
Yes.
Dominic Wenadji, yes. John Gregg,
Yes.
that's it. It's
All right.
it's anonymous, no,
Yeah.
it's unanimous, it's unanimously anonymous. Alright, so we've
Alright,
got
next job.
2, 4, 6, 8, 10.
As I reported, the last batch of jobs done by this contractor, Atlantic Southern, pretty good job. And for significantly less than the previous contractor. So we gave him another batch of jobs. And that's what you have in front of you now. I try to give them about a day's worth of work at a time, sometimes 2 days. Obviously, it doesn't make sense to bring them in for one job at a time. You wind up paying more that way. And if you'll notice, I'm kind of moving around the clock in a counterclockwise motion. So the last batch of jobs were on the south side of the property, now I'm on the east side of the property. That's how I do my inspections, I'm basically working my way around the clock, and next time you'll hear from me, next month, it'll be the north side of the property. The way I'm prioritizing here is, as always, is it a trip and fall situation or can it wait? If we can't fix every crack in every roadway, it's impossible, there's not enough money in the world. What I look for is what I call the cracks that'll break grandmother's back. When I basically drag my toe on the pavement, and if my toe catches, that goes on the list. In this case, there were two roadway issues, and this mostly is caused at the edge by trucks rolling over it, and then we've
North Drive and East Drive.
North Drive and East Drive, right, and there should be pictures there. This kind of work there's been more of it lately. We've got a lot of trucks between Atlantic Broadband, the sewer contractor, FP&L coming in and out. I would love to say, let's just put this work aside until all those trucks are off the property. But once the damage to the edges gets to the white line, now I'm worried about cars getting into it. So there were two that I felt needed work immediately. If you look at the one on North Drive, this is over by Avis's house, Waltham H. Almost certainly this is from the garbage truck. And I have spoken to the garbage contractor about this. As you could see, the edge, I kind of ignored it until it got to the white line, and now it's past the white line. There's another one there along Century Boulevard. Again, I would say this mostly is Atlantic Broadband and FPL involvement. There's kind of no stopping them from rolling across the edges of the road. This stuff happens. So we're gonna patch all that in. Rest of the stuff is basically root intrusion of walkways. Some of the, just to note, some of these trees aren't Yuko's trees. They're association trees that are, the tree doesn't know what a property line is. One of them has ants growing out of it. But in pretty much every one, it's a tree root.
So are all these repairs encompassed in this $3,149?
Yes. Barbara, I know you must have some questions.
Didn't hear what John said about the amount of these jobs.
Are all these jobs included in the quote? And the answer is yes.
How much was it?
3149.
3149 even.
3,000?
149.
And this again is Atlantic Southern, right?
This is Atlantic Southern.
Marcia,
John, if these are association trees, has the associations been notified, maybe to see if they should do something about it, why should you?
No, because the association's A, not gonna cut down the tree, and B, when the person trips and falls on our walkway, it's our deal, so we're basically gonna cut the root at our property line. Could we get into that, trying to make a share agreement? Good luck, I think that would be
Well, I think they should be notified of something, they should at least be aware of the problem, and maybe they will think about doing something, I don't know.
yeah, I suppose.
I think they should be notified.
Yeah.
Until we get to the matter of who pays for what, and they're gonna say, have a nice day, Donald, slam the door in my face.
You never know, that depends on who's the president and how they feel about certain things.
I have a question.
Yes.
You mentioned that you try to batch the jobs so
Yeah.
that and is this an example of they'll come in and do this in a day or 2 days?
Wanna give them at least a day's worth of work. Because you have a mobilization fee every time you bring the contractor on the property. So to bring them a half a day's of work at a time is basically not the way,
Well,
not
that's what-
best value, let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's what I wondered, if this was one of those batches that brought it all together
Yes,
at one time.
Yeah.
Good.
and
Done them
you know,
individually.
it's kind
be
of a
twice
moot
that.
point, cause there's always at least a day's worth of work. I've got
Okay.
already 3 or 4 batches lined up that I haven't even brought you yet, but I wanna bring them at a regular interval because I wanna be able to show that we have a regular program going on. And then, of course, you know, something will erupt down the line and I gotta bring that into the next batch. Things don't always work out the way you like.
Okay, thank you.
Economy of quantity.
Yeah,
David,
David Boaz?
Yeah, John, do we have a square footage price on this so we can compare?
I don't think I have it for you here, David, but it, when I did make that comparison, it was the same.
Pardon me?
It was the same, you know, I compared last month's jobs to this month's jobs.
Do we have a square footage on this job so we can compare their square foot price?
We
this
did,
time to the last time?
we did, I have a feeling I left that out. But yeah, there was a total square footage, I'm sorry it's not here. But it was comparable as far as you know, per square inch or per square foot price.
That would be nice to have in the contracts the next time. So
Uh,
we can actually do a physical comparison from one job to the next.
You know, I'm pretty sure it's here because, you know, the contract's this thick and I weed stuff out, I probably weeded the wrong page out. I'll bring the whole contract to officers next week so we can take a look at it. And yeah, but that was one of the things that came up at the last meeting, is this
No.
is this a low introductory price? And
Exactly.
the answer was no, they pretty much,
The other thing is, if you have one hole and patch it, it costs one price, but if you're doing 10 or 12, it's a whole different situation, and you're moving equipment and personnel from place to place, so the numbers wouldn't jive.
Right.
1 versus 10 holes.
but I'll make sure you have all that information, because you're gonna vote on this next week. And I'm bringing this to bids, but there's no bid to look at, I'm just basically, yeah, no problem.
And the variance shouldn't be that much though.
It wasn't, that's why I didn't
That's
put
what I'm
it in.
saying, because even with the movement,
Yeah.
plus you start at one
Not
end.
square footage on this contract.
Okay, I'll make sure that's there.
A couple questions.
Okay, anybody wanna make a motion?
I make a motion that we accept Atlantic
I'll
Suburbs
second it.
3149.
Is it warm in here?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Excuse me.
Not for non-campers.
Thought it was just me being on.
No, it's me too.
you haven't passed out from it yet.
And the time is 11:36.
Coming up on the 2-hour mark.
Yep,
And we have just,
after an hour, they get unproductive as far as I'm concerned.
we have one more issue.
Take a,
Wanna take the vote while he's on, because
Yeah.
he doesn't vote anyway.
He don't vote anyway.
Ed Black,
Yes.
David Boaz,
Yes.
Stuart Richland,
Yes.
Barbara Cornish,
Yes.
John Hess.
Yes.
Sandra Cooper.
Yes.
David Williams.
Yes.
Herb Finkelstein.
Yes.
Don Bonaggio, yes, even though they spell my name wrong.
Oh,
John Craig. That's it, 10-0. Motion passes.
Okay, and yes, I'll have that information for you next week, David, thank you. Okay, last
And the
item
last item.
is installation of automatic door openers here at the Yuko building. Recently, it's come to light that we have some operators here in the building that have trouble opening doors. Stanley is the spec'ing door for the exteriors of this building. When it comes to that, Stanley's pretty much a sole source vendor. I checked it with Dan on this one. It's a Stanley door. If we're gonna upgrade it, we're gonna go to Stanley. I want you to disregard the one that's in the package because we added. And this is the current one, which I'm gonna pass out. We went through the building and tried to identify the minimum amount of doors that need to be equipped with automatic door openers. We came up with one exterior door at the rear, two doors that separate the executive area from the public area. One is by the treasurer's office, by the barcode desk, the other is in the rear corridor of the building. And the third one is one restroom, which is the restroom in the executive area. Now, I wanna let the committee know that this vendor has not been on the property yet. This is a pretty tentative bid.
So it could go one way or another.
I don't think it will.
Yeah.
But you know, I haven't met the guy yet. And apparently he's a hard time to get here, but he will get here between now and next week. We're looking at $79.25 for the 4 doors altogether.
And each door will have a wireless push plate on each side.
Yeah, there'll
That's
be
why we
push
have
plate now.
eight versus the
Now, the
four.
reason I'm caveating on what the final price would be is, I need to show the vendor what we're gonna do on the exterior door on the back. That's a restricted access door. You have to have a key or you have to press the doorbell. I think what's gonna wind up happening there is, instead of a push plate, there will be a keypad.
Mhm.
And whoever is authorized to have a key to this building, instead of using their key, they'll use a key code. And then press the push plate, and that'll swing the door open. And then for visitors that come in the back, they'll just use the doorbell and get let in. The reason we chose the back instead of the front is the front door is a double door and the back door is a single door, so it was a price thing. That's pretty much it. You guys can read it, and I'm sure you've seen them in other public buildings where you have a blue push plate set back from the entrance, and the person who needs it presses the push plate, door swings open.
You're not gonna have one at the front door?
No.
It's a double door.
Yeah, no.
That would
Can we
be
do
good.
it? Sure, but you know.
Big bucks, yeah.
And most of our people come in the back door anyway. There's more parking out back than there is out front. We have a doorbell out there too.
Can I add one thing? This morning, I came here with the thought that it was a frivolous thing to do. However, I came in with Sandra, and I held the door for her to come through. So I no longer feel that way. I think it's something that it's an accommodation, not just to her, but to other people who are in the same similar situation.
I think that's a key point. Obviously, we all know that Sandra is working with us now, and that's what drove this initially. But I don't want the committee I want the committee to understand that we're not doing it specifically for Sandra, although we really are. Look, whatever we're doing for Sandra, or for Joy for that matter, we're doing for more than 1/3 of the homeowners that live in this village. Cane, walker, mobility scooter, wheelchair. These people are homeowners and they do come into this office to access services and attend meetings. And it was obviously something that maybe should have been addressed when the building was built, and it wasn't. I can't speak to the code requirements or the ADA requirements, I wasn't directed to make that research. But I think from just a simple, it's something we need. And just on that basis alone, I would suggest that you proceed with this.
Question,
Yes, ma'am.
okay, I can understand the back door, I've seen Sandra have to wait till somebody opens the door, and that's a really bad inconvenience for her. I also can see the door between David Bowies and Tony, okay?
The rear corridor door, yes.
That's a fire door, yeah.
Okay, and the next thing that should be taken out is that half-wall gate should be removed. Then, when Sandra comes in, she can go into the back office where she works and does a lot of work. She can come out past David Bowies, there'll be no half-wall, and she can get to the front desk. That's talking about two doors. And then, of course, the bathroom door should automatically be. But if you're talking about the community, maybe you should think about the main bathrooms. Or maybe the main door also.
But we'll change the price if you guys wanted to do, first place.
No, I'm just saying.
Well, I mean, the reason we, Robert, if you let me respond, the reason that we focused on the rear door, the rear bathroom rather than the front two, is that the rear bathroom is a unisex bathroom and the other two are a men's or a ladies' room. So it was a matter of price. You wanna pay for 2 door openers or one?
Okay, so then we're talking about the back door, the bathroom door, and the door between David Bowies and Tony, am I correct?
Yes.
Doors is that?
Say again?
That's 3.
How many doors is that?
We're talking about 3 with 3 interior, 1 exterior.
No, but I'm talking about a bathroom door, that's one.
That's
The door
one.
between David Bowies and Tony, that's 2.
Mm-hmm.
And taking down the half wall, so she has access to go out front to the conference room and the front. That would be 3 doors, am I correct?
Rather than the gate pass.
Rear door.
So you're proposing that we remove the half barrier, the Dutch door?
Yes, because that never was there years ago anyway, it should have been put there, everybody just puts their hand over and opens it. So it would be more of a convenience for Sandra to be able to get through the door and then just go right through there.
Alright, I mean, that's obviously outside of the scope of the project we have here. That would be something I'd bring to officers next week.
Right.
I definitely think you'll catch some security concerns when that's discussed. There's a reason that Dutch door was put in, and it's to limit access to people that come in off the street to the executive area. Can it be done? Sure. It wasn't in the original plan to begin with. That was added in later on, if I'm remembering right. That wasn't in the original plan. We added that in. Could it be
And
taken?
how many doors do you have right now on the pricing?
4, by the way, you're not looking at a most current proposal, Barbara. We added in another door, so it's 4 doors total, 3 are internal and 1 is external.
Okay. 3 internal, that would be the door by David Bowies
That would be
and
David,
Tony,
that would be David and Tony's door.
the
the-
bathroom,
That's 2.
That's 2.
The bathroom would be 2, and the third one would be the door that separates the public area from the back of the barcode area, near the treasurer's office.
I see. And what about the next door?
That's
the
the
exterior,
outside,
the
that's the
exterior.
That's the
outside
exit
door.
door.
The back door.
Right, you're talking about, I understand, I understand, you're talking about the middle door beyond the fire door, that's separate, that's not in the plan. That's wedged open as it stands now, and it's not a fire door, so there's no reason not to keep it wedged open,
I see, okay,
right?
okay.
Now, you mentioned getting into the building, kind of not what we were thinking about, it was more about egress. And Sandra, I apologize for using you as an example, I think you're cool with it, right?
I am,
Alright,
I'm fine,
listen,
I'm fine.
God forbid there's an emergency and this building needs to empty out fast, and we all forget about Sandra at the same time. And nobody's opening, and we will, because that's the way we are, right? you know, Sandra's sitting there
Don't think
and
so.
she can't get out of the building, it could
I
happen.
might be surprised.
Yeah, exactly. When people panic, they only think about themselves. Now she's stuck in the building, whatever the thing is, and the only one dealing with the thing. Sandra needs to
Are you
be,
talking about making the back door accessible, am I correct?
yeah, I'm gonna finish the scenario. Sandra needs to be
Okay.
able to get out or into this building as if she was the same as us. She needs to get out, if she wants to get out because she just hates us and has had enough, she should be able to do it without asking someone to open the door for us. If she wants to go to, if she needs to go to the bathroom, she should be able to do that same as me without having to
I
ask me
agree.
to open the door. So that's really what, I hadn't really thought about ingress because I've seen her get in and out, but it's really egress that we're thinking about more than anything else.
And I
Did I
agree
catch
with
that
you. I
right?
think
Yeah.
it's automatic, you have to do it for this woman, for anybody, not just Sandra, anybody that.
Well, that's what I'm trying to make out. Obviously Sandra brought this to the fore, but we're doing it for the whole community and
Oh, I agree with you, but you also, what I'm saying is, I think you're doing the wrong doors, I think the back door, I think by David and Tony, and I think the bathroom door, that's 3 doors.
all right, well, that's something that we can discuss at the officers' meeting. Again, this is a proposal. So if you decide you wanna do something different and it's lowering the price,
The
not.
door opposite this one is a fire door. right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's the fourth one.
Yeah,
Yes.
if we can go on and let John Hess speak and then Marcia, Marilyn, Marcia.
I was gonna say that I'm pretty much in favor of this proposal, with the exception of seeing how we don't know what ADA standards and everything is, we ought to find out what they are. So while we're installing it, we can make sure we are in compliance, cause I'd hate like hell to get it all in, and then they come by and say, no, this ain't right, you can't do it this way. So if we get checked to see what our
Hey, John, you're right.
And that's
boundaries
and
are.
that's why I'm caveating this until we get the contractor on site. He's an ADA expert.
Okay,
So I'm
well,
gonna-
this is
And if there's anything else he thinks we should be
Yeah, okay.
doing,
good.
he's our expert, it don't cost us nothing, so I'm gonna, you know, again, caveat this till I get this contractor on the site, and apparently he's a hard guy to get a hold of, so I'm hoping to get him here between now and the officers' meeting. And I'll
I
have,
think that's a good idea, Donald, and I think since he'll know about ADA and private buildings and
Right.
public, would be good to have him come in before we even vote on this.
Yeah.
I know you can't put your hand up to speak before someone else, but if you could give me a chance, I had someone whose hand's been up for a while.
I'm very sorry,
That's okay.
Can't.
I think this is, you know, we'll have all good intentions. My concern is, and maybe I'm completely wrong, there are times when the office is very crowded and when doors are being opened automatic, I was afraid maybe these doors would hit someone or something. I don't know, maybe.
They open rather slowly. And the concept is, if you're standing there talking to someone, you see a door opening, you tend to get them out of the road.
Well, not all of our people.
And we don't have a lot of
do
people
that.
that meet in that hall to
Consciously
have
like that.
conversations. We don't.
But it's very close quarters in here, and, you know, I don't know.
That's a fact.
Even though it's a good intention and everything, I can
But
understand.
the doors have a vision panel, so you can see who's on the other side.
Yeah.
And that's code, it has to be 100 square inches, either 10 by 10 or 4 by 25, and they're 4 by 25. Sandra?
I'd like to speak to that because I think you'll find that with the door opener, it will actually open slower and with sound. You'll hear a motor.
yes,
If you're able to hear it, but you'll find that they open slower than people who are in a hurry, bang that door and go right on out.
Smash it right into the guy standing
It's-
by it.
And that's just from my experience, I think you might find that.
right, the door's gonna swing open just as if a person's opening it for them, except that what's missing is the person.
Yeah, well,
So
you're
if
opening
anything,
the
you
door,
have
you have
less.
control over the door, this way you're not, you know, you're not having control. over
But
the
it does
door.
move slower.
No, I don't know, I really don't know, I guess time will tell.
Mhm.
Because this is very
Herb, you had your
small.
hand up?
I got a question. If you start to go with ADA, you know, finding out exactly what the requirements are, I think the first thing they're gonna say to you is the vast majority of the people who come into this building use those 2 doors, and they come in with walkers and motorized vehicles. You're gonna have more people, that's where you would want it also.
Right.
And the minute you start with that, they're gonna say, oh no, you can have your back door, but you better do your front door because that's where the bulk of the people are coming in
Well,
and out.
that's very likely a possibility, and
Yes.
that's why he's gonna talk to the man who's the expert.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
if that's the case, we have to consider it.
And we have to,
Exactly.
and we have to start somewhere, and what we're starting with is, we have a member of our staff that requires, and we're gonna start with that, and if it turns out we have to expand, we're gonna have to
Yeah,
expand.
so
That's exactly,
currently it's an accommodation
Right.
for an existing situation.
for our residents as well.
Now, just since this was coming up, I was at the convention center last week, so I went and played with some of these things. Because they, and you're right, when you push it, it kind of just opens very slow. And I don't remember hearing noise in the motor, just a
No, you don't get
It's-
it, you don't.
but yeah, I played with them.
You
and-
go to any department store,
Yeah,
they all have
yeah.
it.
Yes,
And when
sir.
I get a chance.
Okay, just a second, go ahead.
Haywood needs to say something about this before I do. He's had his hand up forever.
Breaking it.
Go ahead, go ahead.
I have worked for Stanley on a consulting basis, both when they first came out with microwave motion sensors to open the doors. And I've also done some litigation for them when they've been sued by people who got knocked over. There was a little old lady who camped out in the door, apparently fell asleep and got knocked off her walker. And she sued Stanley. And it went to court and they used part of my disposition to say, you really had to work at it to do that.
Exactly.
Now the doors have both a presence sensor that means if you fall asleep in the door, it won't close. And it also, when the door swings open, if it hits something, it'll stop. So that's basically how they work. Now, my other concern is there's a second line in all of these that says there's customer supplied stuff we have to put in.
Oh, the electrician bill's gonna be extra.
Okay, and that's not included in the cost.
It's not.
Okay, so where does that come from, just out of curiosity?
I have two electricians that work for us here.
Okay.
It'll be one of the two. I'm guesstimating $1,000 on the job.
Okay.
I mean, it's basically 3 or 4 electrical hookups to existing, so I can imagine it'll be huge. But it will be there, it'll be extra.
Okay. And finally, the point about the front door, which is a real problem, we could save some of the problems by getting sliding doors if we had room to put them in. That way it doesn't swing open and it doesn't consume space
No
in
swing.
the foyer.
Yeah, the question is where would the slide go? I mean,
I
The
can
outside
look
of
into
the
that. Some of them just, one door slides in front of the other or back again.
Okay.
Either way, depends on which one you're in front of. But I'll look into that. Do we look at any other people? I like Stanley, by the way, they're a good, reliable company. But there are other companies out there.
There are other companies out there, yes.
Once again,
I used,
we're basically just advisory, so we're moving our thought onto operations and the offices and so forth.
I mean, my experience up north was mostly with the Doramatic company. And Stanley as a secondary. Here in Florida, I see pretty much Stanley everywhere.
Yeah.
Can we make a motion?
Make a
Wanna
motion.
make a motion, John?
Make a motion.
Yeah, I make a motion that we accept this contract and that we also investigate the front door at the same time.
Alright,
I'll second it.
I like that.
Okay.
We're not truly accepting this, this really isn't a contract.
Right.
No.
No, just, once again, we're.
Recommendation.
you're basically telling me to go forward with this.
Yeah, exactly.
It's gonna evolve as we work on it.
For Donald to go forward
Right,
to the officers.
I mean, because that's the first question, do you wanna do this?
Yeah.
Before we go to all this trouble?
Yes.
It sounds like the answer is yes.
Yeah. okay, let's see what the numbers come out. Ed Black?
Yes.
Is there any discussion?
That's what we've been doing.
Of what we've been doing
Is
for
there
the
any-
last 20 minutes.
Is there any more?
Sorry, but I had asked Ed, could I speak, and he said just a minute, and he never got me, but that's okay, forget it, I won't.
No, go
ahead.
ahead, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, that's okay, guys, nothing that important, go ahead.
Okay.
Okay, David Boaz,
Yes.
Stuart Richland,
Yes.
Barbara Cornish,
Abstain.
Abstain.
John Hess,
Yes.
Sandra Cooper,
Yes,
Haywood Williams.
Obviously, yes.
Thank you. Herb Finkelstein,
Yes.
Don Bonaji, yes. Who we got? John Bragg.
Yes.
So it's down 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 to 1.
Hi, John.
Carries.
Good.
Anything else we need to do today?
No, I just,
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to make one comment about all this, that, you know, because we were kind of using me as an example and.
thank you for being cool about that.
And that, you know, it's the information that I could provide, I am happy to do that. But I wanted to just mention that I didn't bring this up, that I was cool with people opening doors for me.
I've never had so much exercise.
And that it actually was two of the people who are the most common door openers who brought this up to the officers.
Sure.
And when they said it out loud, I thought it was an excellent idea, but
But there isn't always somebody at the door to
Yeah.
open it for someone.
that's
Right.
true, I have been known to sit and wait.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
I have to go. I wanna ask you something,
Of course.
it's completely unrelated.
Okay.
Anything else you wanna talk about? It sounds like we're adjourning.
I think